Welcome to our talk. So before we start the talk, little bit about us. Sunit, you want to go first?
Yes. Hi, I'm Sunit. I'm from the ThoughtWorks Pune office. I head digital platform strategies in India region, and I help organizations with building platforms, digital platforms, doing the large scale enterprise modernization gigs and all of that. So I'm enthusiastic about Agile as always. That's a little bit about me. I'm developer at the heart. Over to you, Pramida.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Pramida, currently working with ThoughtWorks as principal consultant. So developer at heart, but I've played various roles like tech lead, tech principal. I've played office tech principal role for Hyderabad office also, and managed multiple agile projects. My recent found passion is developer experience, where I have worked with the various clients to improve their developer experience and also the engineering effectiveness at their core organization. So today we'll be talking about our experiences leading multiple projects in the area of developer experience. So this is going to be the agenda. First we'll talk about what is developer experience. We'll also talk about the challenges that we have faced in scaling it, and also the 5 techniques that we have adopted and through our learnings, which can help others also to scale the developer experience. We'll also talk a little bit about the project impact that it has created, along with one tool that has helped us in this journey, which is Backstage. Okay, so let us also make this interactive. So first let us understand what is developer experience using one use case. How many of you have been a developer or work along with developers here?
Most of it. Good.
Cool. So this is very apt for you. This session will be useful is what we are hoping. So usually what is developer experience when you ask, right? Let's say take a journey of a developer, 1 day journey of developer. Okay, what does a developer do in a day? So a developer comes to the office, he or she attends stand-up, which is usually supposed to be for 30 minutes, right? But casually extends for 1 hour or so and all. And let's say the use case or the task that the developer has picked up for that day is integration with internal systems. That means, let's say he is working on a service A, but need to integrate with an API from service B. Simple one-line statement, right? Or that story is written and the developer has picked up this story. Now the developer comes back to his seat, to the desk, and tries to search for that API. Where is that in that service actually? And tries to find out more details about the service B, that API and all. After searching for some time and going through various documentations, he could not find anything. So then he goes back to his manager asking, where can I find this? Then the manager navigates him to some other team, service B, and then this person actually goes to that developer in service B and asks her where can I find this? Then she gives a documentation. Good. He grabs a coffee, comes back, sits in the seat and then checks for that, but he doesn't have access to that. So then he goes back to her, asks, where can I find this access? She says, I can't give you access. I think you need to go to some other team in DevOps to get the access. So then he goes there, raises a ticket, navigates to his manager. Then they ask, why do you need this? Then he gives the explanation. Then he has to go some to and fro in the mail, goes out for lunch, comes back, tries to get access, checks the documentation, but the documentation is not complete, or that contract is not working as expected in the documentation. So and many things, right?
You forgot to raise a ticket in between.
Right, forgot. Yeah, then he has to raise a ticket and then answer to the ticket and all. Boom, the day is over. I'm only talking about getting access and identifying that API. I'm not even talking about other things like testing. Where is that? How do I consume that API? Where is the testing environment? How do I test it? And when I actually use this API, the observability of it, or how do I deploy this, the prod credentials. I'm not talking about the performance testing. I'm not talking about all these things. Now imagine how a developer can work in this environment, right? Sounds familiar?
And that's all in the essence about developer experience, right? What the developer goes through. This is one example. There are many such examples. We talk about user experience, right? User in the sense of application user, and we talk a lot about that. But we have to now care about our own life. We have to care about our own experience. And that's what we have to start looking into to make our own life easy. This is all about we making our own life easy.
So I spoke about one day, right? So what we did is we have gone through the entire developer journey and then bucketed the experiences of developer into 4 categories. Okay. So the first one being content experience, where usually when a developer comes newly into a office or a company or a project, what does they do? The onboarding experience, the onboarding documentation, or when they leave the project or move to some other project, the offboarding experience. Not just this, your company might be using some specific technologies, okay, your own languages or your own CI/CD tools. So they need to know or learn those things also in order to work effectively. So these all comes under the content experience. And what is the most thing that you need to focus on here is the knowledge base, having a good knowledge base actually. So then the next content is the delivery infrastructure experience. Usually developer spends a lot of time here. Most of the time is spent here. Things like, pulling the code, then the CI/CD, the way that what we were talking about, like automated pipelines, and then availability or monitoring tools that they need to use. So day to day, all the coding part or the delivery infrastructure that is needed for the work to be run smoothly, that is what comes under this bucket. And the self-service becomes more important here. And we'll talk more about self-service actually. Yeah. So, and when you're working on these areas, right, when you're working on the code, when you're working on the project, or when you're working on various applications, what is the first thing you do as a developer? You pull the code and you do the readme, right? You read the what is there in the readme so that you can understand locally how can I install, or how do I integrate, or what is the project structure, all these things, okay? So the information related to the applications that you are working on becomes crucial, which we categorized into document experience. Also things like, like why is certain architecture decision taken? Like why is Mongo being used instead of Postgres? Okay, what are the APIs, that API documentation that we were talking about in the previous example, right? All these things comes into the picture in the document experience, and having that application info in the document experience is very important. Now, after all, we are all human beings, and nothing can be done without collaboration. And there are various things in collaboration. It's not just about talking to your peers or other developers, but it is also about learning things through blogs, or providing your views through comments or likes in social media, or also like even small things, that instant messaging system to talk to your peers or to talk to others, the channels, that number of channels you use. Okay, all these things also are important in a developer experience. I'm saying this because in one of the project we are facing, right, we integrate with multiple people, like we have a client and there are other vendors, or there are other people who are working on, or the other teams that are working on. If I can't have an access to directly talk to the team using an IM or some direct channel, it becomes a hindrance in my thing. Now I need to wait for next day for the some meeting to happen, or I need to rely on someone else to actually send my mail. No, all these things also will hinder the developer experience. So all these things are categorized into the community experience over here. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, we have like, this is the overall experience that developer needs to go through, and we need to help developer to have a better life, better experience, which will eventually result into better outcomes also, right? So that's the whole idea behind improving developer experience, will result into better outcomes, and at the end it will result into better business outcomes. That's how the overall impact can be seen of just improving the developer experience. And this has been the topic in the industry for good amount of time now. However, everybody is trying something or other, and they have challenges also when they are implementing or trying to implement. So we'll talk about that as well as we move further. Now, in industry, what drains the most of the productivity from developer? There was a survey done, and there were a lot of questions asked, where you spend more time, what do you do? So there are a lot of things waiting for other people to do the stuff, right? What Pramida was mentioning, to get the API documentation, I am running pillar to post to find out what is the API documentation. And there is no documentation. Somebody is verbally telling me and then showing some code and giving this kind of JSON you will get. But they don't have all the scenarios captured, all the variations captured. And then we discover that through testing and then we try to fix, right? Then meeting where mostly I remain silent. There are many meetings that I need to attend as a ceremony where I remain silent, struggling with bad tools. I don't have good testing tools. If I want to test the API, I don't have Insomnia is the name of the tool, the kind of tools available at my exposure, so that if I have to integrate, I can quickly test and see if that API is working or not. Managing tickets is one of the biggest. I have to raise the ticket, then follow up on the ticket. Oh, I forgot to add one of the field and that's why the ticket is rejected. I have to raise the ticket again. Then approvals is the next big challenge. First of all, getting the ticket right is the big challenge, right? And this ticket is like a system in itself. And there are a lot of people in the organization managing it. A lot of time, energy goes into that. However, if I will give you the further examples, for Q&A with a lot of people, understanding the business requirement, checking whether the API that I am connecting to has those kind of features available or not. If not, again going back to business, saying them this is not possible because downstream system doesn't have this capability, I cannot build it. Or going and talking to the downstream system that okay, you need to build this. Then we have to raise a again request to them that they have to do that implementation and then only we can integrate with it. All that just drains the overall productivity. Ideally, job of the developer, get the document, do the coding, test it, done with it, right? That is the ideal scenario. However, all of this is we are trying to solve, and when we try to solve, there are a lot of challenges or why this fails when it comes to implementing this in the large organization. Because this is not just about one team working in isolation, right? That works really well, but that's not the reality. Every team works in collaboration with many other teams in the organization. And that's where developer experience is not just about that single team or a small team. When we pick up this kind of a project, we go for a big bang. We say we'll go and do internal developer platform and that's our way to go. We'll set this up and we'll get this out. Never goes out, never does the adoption comes into the picture, right? And then it just stays there. Many times we are not solving the problem of the developer. We are just building it up to showcase that we have this kind of setup for the management or the stakeholders to show. We need to pick up, we'll talk about this technique more further. Then scaling this, doing this for one team is possible, but when it comes to the multiple applications that we need to handle under one developer platform or improving the developer experience, because everyone is having a different ways of working, how you go about doing that. Not having the clear strategy, roadmap, blueprints is one of the biggest challenge. For example, I can say that there was a cloud adoption that was mandated for everyone in the organization. There are 200 plus applications. Everyone told go to cloud. Everyone is having their own ways of deploying on the cloud. And that becomes more challenging and difficult. Everyone is going through the same learning curve. We don't have a tools or the frameworks in place which will help them to onboard to the cloud quickly. And at the end, when there is a chaos, developer says this is a more work for me rather than reducing work for me. You are asking me to now do extra than what I am doing, and adoption becomes zero or dies out over a period of time until there is something to showcase. There will be some momentum. After that, it will be lying there somewhere in the corner. Okay, objective achieved type of thing.
So you're not solving the problems, but you are adding to the problems of the developers by introducing one more tool or one more portal actually. So to solve these challenges and while working on various projects, right, we face these challenges actually, like different places, different challenges, and then based on those learnings, if you want to start any DevX initiatives, these are the 5 techniques that we should be following. So the first one is the product mindset. Okay, let me ask you a question. Who is this developer experience initiatives for? Who is our consumer here?
Who is the
Who is the
customer
customer for
developer
this
experience?
DevX initiatives or platform?
Developers, right? Yes.
Right, developers, right? So the right question to ask is, who is your customer? And obviously it is your developer. Now when you're planning to build a product or when you're trying to do some project, what do you do first? You do a lot of user research, right? Let's say if you're building an app for Gen Z, you try to make it cool with vibrant colors, you try to make it, gamify the application and all. Whereas if you're building an application for old people, some health application for old people, what do? You try to make the font bold, you try to make it easy and accessible. Why are we doing all these things? We are doing it so that is our consumer base. We do a research, we identify that this is their pain point, this is what we are trying to solve, and we do the work or we develop our project surrounding that. Okay, and we also take feedback continuously. Like one version of the app is released, we take the feedback and then we incorporate the changes accordingly. Okay, so we prioritize features, keeping the user in the mind. But when we do developer experience, usually that will not be the case. So what the action that we need to take is, take the most painful process or problem. So if you ask developers, they'll tell you a lot of problems. We are facing a lot of problems, or I'm facing problem with process, problem with tools, lot of things. So take the most painful problem and solve it one at a time. Same MVP approach. Solve first one problem and then go to the next one actually. So you're avoiding that big bang approach. You're also solving the most important thing to the developers. For example, I'll tell you, in one of the project, then okay, how can you do this? Like how can you get what is the problem? Use surveys. If you have been good enough in the system, you will also know what is the problem and all. So as an example, in one of the projects, right, the major problem that developers are facing is laptops. Not APIs or not some fancy portals or anything. They are working on microservices architecture where they have to actually deploy multiple services and the laptops are not supporting it. You deploy 2 services and the laptop says no enough storage. So the local development and deployment to test itself is becoming harder actually. 1 or 2 people have good laptops, you develop, push it, then port it there and then check it. Imagine the pain of the developer, right? So in that case, first thing you need to do is replace laptops. Don't build some big bang portals or platforms. So identify those pain points actually. And in our previous example, that API documentation not being available. So there are various things you can do when you think that your consumer is the developer. And one major anti-pattern we see here is, most of the times, the consumer is not considered as a developer, but the management is considered as the developer. So let's say some person in the organization with a very good heart decided they wanted to improve developer experience and asked us to actually start the initiative and allocate some money and all this. If you think that developer is the consumer, you will solve their problem. But if that person thinks that management is the consumer, then they start building things like dashboards to understand how much time a developer is spending on code. Even dashboards like how much time developer is working or how many lines of code is committed. So that dashboards and all are for management, not for developers. They are not helping developers actually. So here the key is not developer productivity. The key here is developer experience. Think in those lines. So then the question comes, what do the management get out of it? Why should I invest money in it? Okay. Developer productivity is a byproduct of developer experience. Okay. So there is this famous paper, Developer Experience, How to Improve Developer Productivity. So it talks about these 3 things: flow state, where if the developer is able to actually work continuously without any hurdles or not. and the cognitive load, like how much complex projects are they handling, and also the feedback loop, like how frequently they are getting the feedback, multiple things. But what it's a paper by Microsoft and Gartner, and what it actually says is that you improve the developer experience, it will internally give you developer productivity. Now, when you are removing all the hurdles that the developer is facing, developer get more time to do the actual work, that is coding. Okay, so like I will keep going back to our previous example. So in that example, if the developer has got the access and authentication for the API documentation, it hardly takes in 1 or 2 hours to actually integrate it and use it and deploy it, right? In the same day, he could have deployed it. But that was not the case. So that's why we are saying improve the developer experience, thinking your developer is your consumer, so that it will improve the developer productivity.
Moving to the next big thing is the evolutionary approach here. We don't have to go with the big bang approach that I'll solve all the problems of the developer at one shot, and I'll do this by taking some internet developer platform and I'll buy and I'll ask everyone to move there. It won't happen, and that's where it fails. You can have that for one project which is starting greenfield, possible some success there, but the whole organization is running with 200 plus applications. Some of them are COTS products, some of them are just 3-tier simple applications, some of them are complex microservice architecture. They are integrating with each other. It's not a simple task to do and solve this problem in one big bang way. So take the evolutionary approach in this, right? Again, the architecture of these platform or the internal developer platform that we try to build to solve the developer problems needs to be taken one step at a time with loosely coupled architecture, where you can go and develop things one step at a time. So I think taking this example, one of the learning that we have, or I will showcase the Backstage also in the further, that how it can help to build a solution for one problem at a time and help developer to have that going, right, and start using them. We do that, right? Feedback loops, roll it out, MVP approach, correct? That's what we have to do. And building the API is one example where we have two types of consumer, two types of users for the API. One is the consumer of the API and one is the producer of the API, correct? There are many consumers. So let's start solving the problem from the consumer lens, which is the another developer from another team. What they need is good documentation, access and testability to do the integration, correct? Take that as a first baby step. Provide all the API somewhere as a discoverable with the documentation available, so they don't have to run pillar to post for every integration that needs to be built. Second, once the documentation is available, I am ready to integrate, I need access to my API. Now certain APIs can be accessible without any approval. Certain APIs needs approval, that why you are using, you have to give all the info and somebody will approve it. And then once it is approved and all, I get the access token, everything, I can test the application, I can test the integration, so that I am done with my consumer side of it. Roll this out. Even the first step in this is valuable to end user or the developer, right? Just making the documentation available, discoverable is smallest thing that we can make available. But for that, all the application needs to publish their API. If only one application does, its adoption is zero. So you need to look at one step, and then adoption is important. Then it becomes the ecosystem for everyone. Everyone will start using it. Everyone sees that when I am putting my documentation up, others are also putting, then it's a value for everybody in the organization. Otherwise, it's always a challenge, like, okay, my manager has asked, I have put it up, now nobody is putting, he showed it to the management, again I am going back, oh, we showed that we have implemented all of this and done. But adoption is the key. So take one step, make sure that it is adopted, valuable and being used by the whole developer community. Moving on, then go with the producer workflow. I'll show one example where ThoughtWorks has built their own developer platform for solving this particular problem, because for a company, a small company like ThoughtWorks, who is not into any business directly but in the service, we still have so many applications to integrate with, like staffing, recruitment, leave management, all of that needs to flow data with each other, right? That's where we have built our own platform where we publish this. I'll show, if time permits, that application as well. Anti-pattern is that, oh, we can do only for this and not for the other things, right? So for example, how the COTS product that we have purchased is exposing API, and how we can make that API available for others to consume. Most of the time cost products are integrated by some of your internal applications or the other applications, right? So if I have a backend system, a core system, like insurance core system or the banking core system, what are the APIs available from them? How I can publish those APIs onto this platform is also we have to solve, because their API might be not available in the Open API or Swagger specification. So we might have to do that and just publish those APIs here, right? So it's important that we look at all the different types in the organization, come up with the approach for each of that. Moving on to the next.
Okay. So earlier also we were talking, right? How many of you are using cloud services, AWS, Azure? Most of you are using, right? So what do you do if you need an EC2 instance? You go to AWS portal and then you say that I'll need this EC2 instance, select the configuration that you need, and you get that, right? Imagine if you're not doing that, but you raise a request saying that I'll need this EC2 instance or for myself. And then someone in AWS sits and responds back to you saying that what should be the configuration, what should be this, what OS do you want? And then you respond. And then again they ask you that for how long do you need? Imagine a ticketing system where you raise a ticket and someone at AWS is actually responding and solves your ticket for you.
I just want to add here, that's the reality. But you know what is the reality? AWS gives you all of this as a self-service. What organizations have done, on top of that, we have done a service now request. If you need a server, we'll give you in AWS, but we'll have a ticketing flow where you write this down, and half of the time people are struggling what to put in the ticket. And oh, you have not given this information, you have not given. So ticketing is there on top of AWS. Yeah. You have made it more painful, where AWS and GCP tried to solve the problem for us. Yes. Yeah. Ferrari in the Bangalore road. Correct. Good example. Thank you.
But if we have AWS itself is doing it, then I don't think nobody would have adopted AWS this quickly actually. Okay. So the right question to ask is, what are you trying to automate for your developer? Okay. If you are saying that I can give you system in AWS, are you giving it in one click, or are you trying to again make the same process of to and fro for 2-3 days and then provide the system to the developer, right? That's the question to ask actually. So then the action that we need to take is that make the solutions or the automation that you are doing as much self-serviceable as possible. Not just this, think about, let's say you are working in a company with with some new startup or something, and then where people are actually working on microservices, and you frequently actually spin up microservice environments or create new services. In that case, what you need to do is that create some service templates. And once the developer pulls the service template, you will also give them the build along with it. You'll also give them the automated pipeline for deployment. Okay, so when you automate this process and when you make it self-serviceable, you are also sparking the innovation in your company. You're giving the flexibility to the developer, saying that, okay, you try, explore, okay? But obviously the question comes that, how can I make it all self-serviceable? I am working in a finance organization. Obviously, I will need approvals. I'll need approval for access. The question comes, right? So we also understand that not everything can be automated or self-serviceable or one click away. So in those cases, what we suggest is that don't at least make it ticketed system, right? Make it an auto approval. Like we developed, as Sunit was telling, in ThoughtWorks itself, we have our internal platform. And when we want something, let's say we have a leave application, and that leave application exposes APIs. But if it exposes APIs, I don't want to go as a developer and see all the APIs, whoever is having leaves and all. I should not be having access to that info, right? It should be like only few people who has access. Or if it's a genuine case, like if you are actually working on integrating those APIs into your, let's say, G Suite, like calendar, like whenever someone applies for a leave, it shows up on the calendar. If I'm developing that kind of application, it makes sense for me to access those APIs. Here there are two ways. One way is either have a ticketing system where you say that, hi, I am so and so, and then I would like to raise, I raise a ticket saying that I would like to have access to these APIs. And then the owner of those APIs or the service responds back saying that, why do you need it? Please fill this form and all. And then you respond. So as we were talking, right, the ticketing system. Or there is another way which we usually follow is that within that same application, you say that provide access. They will know which team you belong to, and if you will be able to give an access or not, and then you will be given access quickly. So make it as easy as possible. Think in the lines of self-serviceability, and even though you need access or approvals, make sure that you're not making the life of developer difficult through all these ticketing systems, because we saw that as anti-pattern actually.
Yes.
So for a lot of systems, as we were talking earlier also, no, AWS EC2 instance is one click away, but in some organizations, it takes not just clicks, days actually to get that. So this is one of the...
I'll be showcasing these two examples also at the end, where how the API, internal API can be made easily available from the consumer side of it. And second is the how application template can help, which is built in the Backstage, so that the new microservices can be spin up in just minutes, not even hours. So putting all this together, one of the biggest problem of the developer is that they are going to many other systems, and their whole ecosystem is fragmented. Oh, for this purpose you go to GitHub, for this purpose you go to Confluence. Oh, the API documentation is not on Confluence, it is there available on the other system. And then it's all a fragmented ecosystem. The tools are required, all the tools are in place, but it is so many different places where I have to go and look for the information. What we can do to make this easy, bring it under single pane of glass. And the question comes, okay, isn't it going to be difficult that we are building this again? So we have to apply here the 80-20 rule, right? The 20% of the features that the developer uses is 80% of the time, right? So most of the time I'm using those 20% of the features. Can we make those features available under single pane of glass, and remaining 80% can stay on where it is, and that can be gone, but that can be used from the original application. So that's how, if you apply that rule, 80-20, 90-10, whatever you want to take, right? Identify those most used use cases, bring them under the single pane of glass or one-stop place, right? And that way you can give them a very good experience. So the new person who joins the team or the project knows where to go find most of the stuff very easily, and then there is a navigation to the deeper integration or the deeper applications where you can go and find more information around it. So for example, one of the example that I can show is that in Backstage you can build a unified search where the search result can come from Confluence, can come from your, let's say, Google Workspace or Google Suites also, can come from a Git repository also, and can come from a tech documentation that you have kept in the Git repository also. Once you get the result, then when you click on the result, you can go to the documentation, which is in the Confluence, right? So what you are doing is that searching these 4 places is the pain area for the developer, right? You are bringing that into one place. Now the search result is shown, and when you click on that, you go to the Confluence. So it becomes easy for the developer to look at one place, search all the 4 systems together. This is very beautifully solved in Backstage again. So it's like you have to plug into the Confluence, gets the search result from all the 4 federated search type of thing, and then bring them under one result. So that's very unique. So there are many such solutions already built. We just need to look at it, integrate and make them available for the users, who is developer. Again, example, bringing the Backstage example here, developer visiting multiple sites, fragmented system is the anti-pattern here right now. If you have all the systems in place, still they're struggling to go to so many places, right? That's the problem.
So when you're doing any initiative, right? So developer experience is also an initiative taken by an organization. I really like this quote by Peter Drucker saying that if you can't measure something, you can't improve it. So measurement of success is really important. But in this case, the question you need to ask is, are you measuring what truly matters? Are you measuring developer productivity or are you measuring developer experience here? Okay, so the action you need to take is that fix on the right measurement metrics. So you need to understand that what are the actual metrics that help improve the developer experience. We'll also give you some examples of these, like some things like onboarding time or time to first commit. Because the anti-pattern that we have seen a lot is things like measuring lines of code being written. I even sat in one meeting with CX where that person is hell bent. He wanted to know how many review comments are being provided. So when you measure these kind of things, people can gamify. You're not actually measuring the experience here. You are measuring the productivity. You are trying to make the life of developers more difficult. As simple as code review thing. Ideally, you need to make sure that the code review time is less, so that the developers get to work on more important things or spends on coding their own stuff and all. But if you are measuring the number of comments on the review line, then you are like forcing everyone to comment actually. Saying that in your appraisal cycle, developer can even say that I have posted 100 comments in the code review, which is not appropriate actually. So then you may ask me, what is more appropriate? What should I measure? So there are a lot of things actually, but these are some of the list actually. Onboarding time. What is the time to first commit? Because this will tell you how fast a new developer was able to get systems, how fast a new developer was able to get access, how fast he or she is able to get context on the project and able to do the first commit. Okay, or how effective is the pairing, because the new team, even not just into a new company, but when you move to a new project also, how effective the onboarding is, or how effective the new existing developers are helping the new developers. And the code review cycle time, as I was telling, right? So you try to, with the advent of new AI tools, actually you can try to see how can you reduce the code review cycle time. And the whole commit to the deployment time. Like once the developer has committed the code, how much time is it taking for him or her to check the feedback? That means how is my code working? Unless you deploy it, that person can't get the feedback. So reduce that cycle time to get quick feedback so that it will improve their experience. And as we were talking throughout this talk, the API integration cycle time. And if you are still using a ticketed system, at least measure ticket resolution time and see how you can automate that process and reduce that time actually. And most important thing, it may not be a very like a calculated one, but through surveys you can find out developer happiness index, not just the customer happiness index. If you are truly invested in improving the developer experience, also measure the developer happiness index.
And so this one, the last one, so they were in one of the projects I was in, they were checking the mental health also, but then they were forced to put that survey every day, 5 questions, how you are feeling today,
Overdoing it.
something just like this.
Adding
No, it's
stress
like
to the more
overdoing.
developers, you're saying? Adding more stress to developers, that one more task, or?
Every day answering those 5 questions is again. So I think this is where we have to be very careful how to measure this. Like we don't go to customer and ask for the feedback every time they use the app, right? If you do that, they'll just say no, no, no every time. So
And everybody was supposed to fill that mental
yeah,
health and each time.
yeah. So there is a difference there.
Slack.
Possible, yes, no, what is exactly done, what are the question asked is all answer. I cannot say yes or no or good or bad based on not knowing much detail about it, but check your happiness index. That should be the way to measure something about developer experience. The way you do it, don't overboard. We'll talk about something and then don't overboard developer with more work. It should not feel like a burden. You have to say, "Nahi, I am really happy and that's why I want to give feedback," something like that.
Okay. So I think we only have 5 minutes, so we'll move to Backstage quickly. But we have tried and tested these techniques and worked with multiple clients, and we have seen very good improvements. The developer onboarding cycle time was reduced to 15 minutes from weeks. And not just this, not just for small organizations, we have worked with people with more than 8,000 plus engineers to achieve good results. Actually, yeah.
I'll have a question. Then I can ask for it.
It's okay. Go ahead.
So, think of developer experience when you have all the systems within an organization setting up a system that will have connectivity and all those system, get the data, or do the search, or bringing in people. That is all good when you think of a product development. But you are bringing in everything together and I work on product and currently I am also in service companies. In service companies, you have, say, batch of people working for a particular customer, and most of the customers will ask to use their set of systems, their GitHub, their Jira, Confluence, or whatever it is. So people are onboarded to that, and then the chaos again starts. The same thing.
We are into same boat. We are also service company. ThoughtWorks is a service company. Same.
Now bringing in that kind of a developer experience system or portal or whatever you name, how to take it to a customer place and enable this. That might be the biggest.
Yeah, and that's what we do actually every day. And that's what these examples are. It's not, we are also in the service company where we showcase them that how difficult it is for the developer, how much time developer is, I would say, wasting in the development journey, and you are paying for it.
Yes.
So we show them that data, tell them that this reduces, this eventually benefits you. So if you invest in developer experience, eventually it will reduce this time, which will be again feedback into your overall this thing. And many of the clients buy into that. They say that yes, I have this problem, but nobody is helping or coming up with the overall concept of how they can solve the problem. And if you go back, I think at the end, they will be more happy customer for us, that you solved your own problem and you helped us to save money in the development, which we are paying to you. Sometimes the service company are very cognizant, I should not say, they say that it's okay. The more time we take to develop, more money we make, right? So,
Where our customer has asked us to build up an entity as part of this, because it's a large program with them, and they understand that it's a multi-year development, and then they want to have a time. They have this understanding. So they say that, oh, you, as part of this, you also start with a like, once you do it, then we like to see how it goes.
perfect.
If you have that kind of knowledgeable customer, it's pretty good.
Yeah. It's okay. See, at the end, I should not say this on the recording, but at the end, they are paying back to us only. So don't worry too much. Our job is to educate them. If they are happy to listen, they are happy, it's in their benefit. If they say, no, you just work like that.
Again, pain is that when we started, who is the consumer? So are the consumer happy still?
Yeah.
No, my developers
Not
are looking
happy.
for different customers to release more of that other customer, and they are facing the same set of challenges. And we might internally have a very flashy idea which they cannot use.
They cannot use, yes.
Yeah.
Now that is the.
So we need to have accelerators to go and do this in the organizations where we are working. And if we have those accelerators which we can put very quickly and start showing the benefit, I think it will work. If we are not ready with the accelerators to go and do this very quickly, then it's a problem. So we believe that we have an accelerator ready, which we can go and start showing them a benefit, and then they keep investing into it as a one step at a time. I'm moving on
we
fast.
have very less time.
Yes. Yes. Will be done. So this is the Backstage software catalog tech software templates plugin. I'll just play the quickly video. So here the first example where we have the template which can be used to create a new microservice. So here the developer is going to this Backstage where we have a new component to be built, and the service information and all that is fed in on the UI here, which is built in Backstage, right? You don't have to do too much of a coding. It's like a low code type of setup where you set up all this, done with it. At the end you will see the code, which is the repository created in the GitHub, the pipeline created in the GitHub Actions, and deployment done on the Kubernetes also with that template. End to end, all these things are set up in the ecosystem. So this is done, submitted, it is published, now it is creating all that, the repository, the catalog, this whole microservice is added into Backstage itself. It is available in the Backstage. I can go to the GitHub source, I can see the source there, I can see the GitHub Actions, all the stages running into that. It's not visible, but you see all the whole GitHub action details here. It's not very readable because of the light, because it's all done, right? And you can see that the code is published. Now when I go back to the Backstage, you will see that all this data, the 20% that I am talking about, is available and visible in the Backstage as well. So this is the accelerator that we have. Like this accelerator we call it as Konark or a project catalyst, where we say that okay, in order to get started, we have this Backstage accelerator available, which has this GitHub action readily available. But if instead of GitHub action, we can integrate with Jenkins as well. So see, all of these is available here, CI/CD. The SonarQube results are available for that same, because no line of code, so it doesn't not visible too much here. It's very template and all. So this is done. The Kubernetes deployment is done.
So we also wanted to showcase in demo.backstage.io, but you can go back and play it around. It's open source, and you can see how it works and all these things. But we would like to leave you with this thought that every developer needs a seamless user experience, and better experience accelerates outcomes and drives greater business impact. And to do that, please keep these 5 techniques in mind: product mindset, build for self-service, have a measure of success defined, evolutionary in nature, and single pane of glass. Thank you.
So I think we are done with the session. I can show you the Neo. I'm doing the next presentation here, so it's same level.
Pramida and Sunit for the session. Thanks for the audience for attending this session.
Thank you.
Pramida, that fourth one, can you show me the fourth slide?
I can quickly show you the demo if people are interested. I'll take 2 minutes. Yeah. So this is the Neo platform that we have in ThoughtWorks, where we have all the APIs that we have built for ourselves is published here. The team can look at all the statistics, the different API. I can go to the API to discover. This is done in the Neo, which is custom built. This was done 5 years back before Backstage. So if Backstage would have been available, we would have built in the Backstage itself. But this was done long back, so that's why it is there. So if I just search for the leave, I can go to the, let's say, Jigsaw API here, which is our internal tool, all the documentation available, all different kind of access scope that user can ask for. I can go and create the client here. All the consumer side of workflow is automated. The publisher side of workflow, we did not bring into this platform. It is still in the CI/CD. So you check in, and from there the workflow is there. It's a kind of automated, but not in the jazzy UI way, but the consumer side is done. And this can be done nowadays in Backstage also very easily, bringing in all the features in the Backstage, which integrates with your API gateways like Kong or something like that, and it can be done very nicely as well. So that's a little bit quick demo of that. I'll stop sharing, and you are looking for something.
The Backstage one.
The single pane of glass, this one?
Yeah, this one.
Yes.
Slide.
Yes, the slides and everything will be available. Yes, yes.
I hope there are no more questions.
Sorry, we ran a little longer, but how?
Thank you.
During lunchtime also you can catch up.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.